Yes, face mask exemptions still exist in the state of Ohio. Now, Governor DeWine has caused chaos in Ohio. Stores, restaurants, health departments, they don't even know that face exemptions still exist. Scared to death of face mask police. On Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, Ohio Governor DeWine caused a panic and discrimination lawsuits throughout the state of Ohio. November 11th, 2020 news release states, Governor DeWine calls on Ohioans to recommit to safety practices, announces new mask and social distancing orders. In a statewide address to Ohioans Wednesday evening, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine called on citizens to recommit to their individual efforts to prevent coronavirus spread as Ohio moves through its most intense, widespread, and dangerous surge of cases to date. Ohio is currently facing a record number of coronavirus-related hospitalizations and intensive care admissions, with nearly 3,000 people in the hospital, including more than 700 people in the ICU. During the first week of November alone, 104 Ohioans infected with the coronavirus died. With this new and this is a quote, with this new wave of COVID-19, the onset of flu season, and an already exhausted group of healthcare workers, there are serious concerns that there won't be enough people to fully staff our healthcare facilities in the next few weeks, said Governor DeWine. Quote, if we don't change this, Ohio won't be able to provide appropriate care for COVID patients or for Ohioans who require other emergency care for things like accidents, strokes, and heart attacks. Hospitals will again be forced to postpone important but less urgent care. Although testing capacity in Ohio has nearly doubled, the number of people testing positive for the coronavirus has increased almost 4 times. At the end of September, Ohio averaged under 1,000 new cases per day. This week, Ohio hit a record high of more than 6,500 new cases reported in a single 24-hour period. Quote, as we wait for the vaccine, which could come as soon as December, we will have much to protect, said Governor DeWine. What each Ohioan does in his or own life impacts every citizen and every place we desperately want and need to keep open. Our schools, nursing homes, hospitals, and businesses. End quote. To reinforce the necessity of wearing masks and slowing virus spread, Governor DeWine announced 2 forthcoming orders. A revised mask order. Although most people and businesses have properly followed COVID-19 safety guidelines issued in Ohio's July 23rd, 2020 mask order, others are not following the order. To protect frontline workers and customers, the Ohio Department of Health will reissue Ohio's mask order and add the following provisions. First bullet. Each store will be required to post a sign outlining face covering requirements at all public entrances to the store. Another bullet. Each store will be responsible for ensuring that customers and employees are wearing masks. And another bullet point is a new retail compliance unit comprised of agents led by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation will inspect to ensure compliance. The first violation will result in a written warning, and the second violation will result in closure of the store up to 24 hours. And then the new social gathering order has also been in place. Ohio's April order that limits public events and private gatherings of more than 10 people is still in effect. However, there has been rampant spread of the virus as a result of banquets, wedding receptions, and social gatherings following funerals. To address the tragedies that have resulted from such events, the Ohio Department of Health will issue an order that will place significant new restrictions on these social activities. Specifically, open congregate areas will no longer be permitted to open, and everyone will be required to be seated and masked unless they are actively consuming food or drinks. Bars, restaurants, and fitness centers may remain open, but this will be reassessed 1 week from tomorrow for potential closure. If the current trend continues, the cases keep increasing, quote, if the current trend continues, the cases keep increasing, we will be forced to make these closures, said Governor DeWine. Quote, I am very aware of the burden of this will place on employees and owners, but these are places where it is difficult or impossible to maintain mask wearing, which we know now is the chief way of slowing this virus. Well, first off, much of what he is saying is not completely true. The science is real. Science says. They never agree! Science never agrees. There's always someone who disagrees that is a scientist. They have been debating these issues for months now. Do not just believe one scientist. But do you know what actually happens? Science may not always agree, but authoritarian science usually does, because they love the power that they wield. While many stores and restaurants and health departments believe that press release is the new mandate, the legal mandate has yet to be written. I've called the office of Governor DeWine, and mask exemptions still exist, even though not shown in that press release, nor talked about by the governor at all. The mask exemptions are still the same as July 23rd, 2020. I'll go over all of the exemptions in Ohio. A, the individual is under 10 years of age. B, a medical condition, including those with respiratory conditions that restrict breathing, mental health conditions, or disability concentrates the wearing of a facial covering. C, the individual is communicating or seeking to communicate with someone who is hearing impaired, or has another disability where the ability to see the mouth is essential for communication. D, the individual is alone in an enclosed space, such as an office, or a lieu of an enclosed space. The individual is separate by at least 6 feet of all directions from all other individuals. In another case, the space is not intended for the use of access by the public. E, the individual is actively engaged in exercise in a gym or indoor facility, so long as 6 or more feet of separation between individuals exist. F, the individual is actively participating in athletic practice, scrimmage, or competition that is permitted under a separate Department of Health order. G, the individual is actively engaged in public safety capacity, including but not limited to law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency medical personnel. H, the individual is seated and actively consuming food or beverage in a restaurant or bar. I, facial coverings are prohibited by law or regulation. That would be if you can find a law or a regulation that speaks to you personally and you have a reason to not wear the facial coverings, then you are exempted. Facial coverings are in violation of documented industrial standards. That would be J. K, facial coverings are in violation of a business's documented safety policies. And then there's I, individual is actively participating in broadcast communications. That would be like a journalist. M, individual is efficient or religious services. Then N, an industrial or manufacturing facility, employees are separated by at least 6 feet in all directions or by a barrier in a manufacturing line or work area. And then O, schools offering kindergarten through grade 12 instruction or some portion of it that comply with the guidelines set forth by the Ohio Department of Education and Ohio Department of Health. And P, child care centers, family child care, in-home aides, day camps, and other school programs licensed by the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services that comply with current and future guidelines set forth by the ODJFS and the Ohio Department of Health. Now, nothing in that order is intended to interfere with the separation of powers under the Ohio Constitution. Businesses must apply exemptions to wearing a mask equally to all persons. This order does not apply to jails or prison facilities. This order is not intended to supersede, supplant, or pre-empt any order of law of a local jurisdiction that is more restrictive than this order. For the purposes of this order, a facial covering mask is a material covering an individual's nose, mouth, and chin. Now, while some of these exemptions have been changed from newer mandates, most of these, as I was told by the governor's office, is the same. Even when the new mask mandate will be coming out. It has not came out yet, but the stores and the restaurants are scared to death because of the third bullet point explaining the new mandate. Let me read over that again so you know exactly what people are scared of. They are scared of a new retail compliance unit comprised of agents led by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation that will inspect to ensure compliance. The first violation will result in a written warning, and the second violation will result in the closure of the store up to 24 hours. Now, as Governor Mike DeWine promises to create a new policing unit and a retail compliance unit led by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, they are afraid of getting the warning and then being condemned to closing the store for 24 hours. Never before in Ohio history have we seen a governor create a new law enforcement agency for something that is not even a law. This was not created by our lawmakers. This is a mandate. This is an edict of Governor DeWine. Mandates and edicts come from the time of despotism and monarchy when totalitarian leaders take charge of their areas. Well, it's clear from the 24-hour shutdown that will be implemented on restaurants and stores that do not comply that this is nothing about safety. This is all about control. This is all about punishment onto the stores because Mike DeWine feels he truly has no power to control the independent American spirit in his people. He is surely creating, without explaining the mask exemptions, that they still exist, a time where lawsuits galore will be placed on every store that discriminates against their customers. If you are a store, if you are a restaurant, and someone tells you they have an exemption, you better comply because the legal issues will be way more than shutting down for one day. You better listen to your customers because if they have an exemption, you are open to lawsuits. Just know, liberty bites back.